very first episode of Super Planet Sunday. So, really, how do you go about reviewing things that are classically considered nerdy? Comics, games, and animation are all usually not considered things that are anywhere near high-minded attempts at art or even high-minded attempts at entertainment. They're more just seen as fads or flashy behavioral patterns of, shall we say, slightly off-kilter groups of people. But the time has come that many people want these things to be respectable works in their own right, and that's good. Things like comics and video games were made to tell stories outside of what most people consider storytelling to be at the time. But we're running into kind of a problem where people do want these things to be more respected, but at the same time they're wanting to excuse things that are either in just general poor quality or bad taste, under the excuse that such are part of the genre, such as, "Of course gratuitous explosions are dumb, but the action genre just does it!" Or, "Yeah, these super women are boobalicious, but that's what comics do!" and so on. So we really want these things to have more attention. Comics, games, animation, and just weird shows in general introduce a lot of new concepts to the world, or otherwise just explore things that other medias can't so easily do. But we can't really just expect this acclaim to happen and then just dismiss its actual criticism as irrelevant with the same breath.
But Shelby, why you gotta bring your literary criticism to my geek party?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Sally Strawman. Today's the day I'm going to tell you why we need to get our critic on in this subculture. And not just our geek critic, I mean like our real, actual, high school English education literary critic. I'm talking about the sad, sad tale of a small, recent, and somewhat rightfully obscure anime. Blood Sea. Now we know that Blood Sea is an alternate continuity of the Blood the Last Vampire franchise, and we know that there's another series called Blood Plus that we need to watch and compare, and we know that there's a movie sequel to this animation that's recently been released. We'll get on that. But today, we're going to look at this series in a vacuum, because Blood Sea has a lot to tell us about both the good and the bad that our geek-on mentality hath wrought. As a fair warning, if you can't tell already by something called Blood Sea, some of the footage can be a little bit on the graphic side, so yeah, you've been warned. The internet shilled Blood Sea to us on the premise that the show itself is so bad it's good, and after a couple episodes we honestly had no idea what they were talking about. Blood Sea was actually really good. No, seriously, it was good. Okay, you can sort of see it in the opening. Like, our protagonist, Saya, is oh so super moe! And oh, the cute songs that just keep going. No, seriously, this is a good show. Just give us a second here. But mostly it was formulaic at first, not really bad. 75% was weird, girly, schoolgirl antics, and then the episode wrapped up by having Saya fight a monster. This went on for about 3-ish episodes, with increasing implications that just something wasn't right. And not just in the super cliched, "Oh, that family sword definitely isn't cursed or anything, what makes you think that?" kind of way. So it was built on the traditional 12-episode anime plot where the 12th episode was the plot and the other 11 were just a bunch of questions leading into it. But they just did such a good job with it. You just felt like the answer was so basic and within your grasp, but you just couldn't figure it out. And the show itself kind of already got that you were kind of already there, so it just teased you with it all the way through. But no lie, one of the reasons we stuck on at first was that if there was one thing that was consistently well done in this anime, it was that the action combat was awesome. Saya's obligatory enemies per episodes are the Elder Barenstein, a combination between a monster race and evil spirits that prey on humans for food. And it's sad that one of the more innovative things about this show is that you really are convinced that these are big things that only want to eat you. And absolutely terrify you. Saya herself is bred from the classic stock of wide-eyed heroine trying to protect the people of the village. but she's given a surprisingly worthy opponent, because instead of just being a laughing bad guy who exposits and challenges her to a fair fight, all of the Elder Barons just care about picking off the people she's trying to guard. They'll even just swat her aside or jump behind her or just flat out eat people right in front of her face. Well, except this guy, but at this point it was more of a kind of... That's really what makes these things so scary. They're one of the few animal-like monsters I've ever seen in any media that actually act like predator animals. They aren't going after like the super strong, healthy ones. They want to pick off the weak and sick. They don't even really give Saya much of a time of day until she really just up and gets in their grill about it. And the Elder Baron designs are freaking terrifying! So what started out as just like this nice clear divide with wacky schoolgirl antics on one side of the fence and brutal katana killing on the other, slowly started to merge together as the story continued. But what really surprised us was that this merge, when it could have been like needlessly dramatic and honestly sort of stupid, actually was really silky smooth, to the point where it was kind of terrifying in and of itself. As people started dying in the streets, everyone reacted with only mild concern or suspiciously counterintuitive behavior, and more hints were being dropped that everyone knew something. The atmosphere it created was amazing for it. The show really did feel like one of the most effective attempts at animating a nightmare, or a totally believable modern ghost story. So by episode 10, I loved this series. Sure, it used a lot of common tropes, but it also brought in a lot of new and interesting things to the table, like all of the visual symbolism it used for the thermometers to frame the episodes. I thought Saya was a really compelling character, and one of the few attempts at the sympathetic monster done right. She actually provided a genuinely interesting subversion as the series progressed. This mysterious, dangerous girl became the only one the viewer could trust in a town that seemed to be destroying itself just to torment her. Even the obvious and overtired moe quirks were dropped after the first episode, leading to a more subtle implication that her social tone deafness and otherwise silly behaviors came from a very sheltered, on-the-leash kind of upbringing.
どんな店ですか?願いを叶える店。あなたはその店の番犬さんですか?店主だ。お客様は犬さんたちですか?
And then... Man, we do not want to, make a habit out of spoiling things here. We really try not to do it, but we cannot talk about everything that's wrong with this show without talking about the last 2 episodes. And you can't talk about the last 2 episodes of Blood Sea without talking about... the Kira Easter Bunnies.
Easter bunnies? Really?
What's wrong with bunnies?
I'm just having second thoughts.
In just 2 episodes, they rendered the entire series into little more than a joke. Without spoiling too many details, they basically just dragged in this uninteresting X-Files conspiracy plot to justify everything that happened. All of the setups they've been working the whole series to establish were rendered pointless. Pointless! And nothing highlights it more than this scene. What made the combat so good and interesting in this show was that the blood and gore and stuff was just side effects to how brutal everything was, not the cause. And even though a lot of people died, they all had an impact on Sai and the feel of the town. The victims themselves actually acted like people who were suddenly put to the bottom of the food chain and had no idea what to do. You couldn't even get mad at the people who just stood there, since the Elder Baron sometimes made targets out of people who panic and bolt, like mountain lions. But this is ridiculous! It's just blood and gore and guts just for the stupid of it! It's pointless! When most people complain about endings like this, they usually do it on grounds of narrative mechanical errors, like plot holes or really bad breaks of character. But this seems like a completely different beast. This is not so much a basic understanding of how English works crime, so much as it's an artistic crime. And that's really just kind of like where we are right now with how geeks approach media. We have so little faith in our own ability to create great works that the only way that we feel like we can do it is if we break something else, instead of really approach it with creativity, the intent to explore the unexplored, to create believable characters, or anything of the like. And that's why the ending fails. We no longer see this great setup that we put so much time and effort into creating as what the work is about. We think smashing it is the great artistic statement. And if we really think this is acceptable, our priorities are seriously off the rails. This is why we bring literary criticism to the table. Your audience isn't stupid. If you just pull weird, dumb, pandering bullcrap like this at the last minute, working under the assumption that this is what everyone came for, people are gonna know. And they'll hate you for it. People on the internet already render this show as snarkbait at kindest, and because the ending is considered so universally bad, most people would discard 10 episodes worth of genuine brilliance just to compensate for it. We've really gotta stop this, guys. So that's what Super Planet Sunday is here to do. We praise the good, we decry the bad, and for 99.8% of the time, we do it for geek things that deserve just a little more of both. Let's not have another tragedy of Blood Sea on our hands. We're not writing fanfiction for our subculture anymore, kids. If we want to play the big leagues, we gotta do it by tournament rules. And we here at Super Planet Sunday are here to help you every step of the way. But you know, I almost wonder how I should end this episode to appeal to my new, blooming fan base. Come on now. Boysenberry. Well, we can't always say that we're above it all, but we're here with a mission, and we're gonna keep on trying till we get there. I'm Shelby, and I'll see you next week. After a very meticulous shower.